Brazil likes to think of itself as living in a racial democracy. It loves to beat its chest and cite that our miscegenation and interracial marriages prove that we are not racist. But even the very dynamics of these interracial marriages only prove how sexist as well as racist the structures of Brazilian society are. It's always the Black who ends up dying sooner, being more imprisoned, and earning less money. It's always the women who end up working harder, earning less, and suffering more violence. And when we look at the numbers of interracial marriages in Brazil, whose marriage market happens in a deeply sexist and racist context, Black women are the doubly subaltern who suffer the most. For everywhere we look, whether for the numbers of interracial marriages, for the racial composition of the college students, or the statistics of victims of violence, all the numbers only prove our racism and sexism. Some Brazilians like to fool themselves saying, quote, if we were really racist, we would not be miscegenados or mixed. Racists are the Americans that don't mix, unquote. Again, this is something that I've heard for years. Not true. Racists are both. In Brazil, the existence of the mulatto, the brown racial category, is both a cause and consequence of the ideology of miscegenation or embranquecimento, again, meaning whitening, and not an automatic result of the mixing of races. Miscegenation by itself does not create miscegenados or admixed people or mestizos, mixed race people, or mulatto, or whatever is the term invented by classifying people who are products of the union of individuals of different races. In the United States, for most of them that exist, they are simply classified as Black, period. As such, Barack Obama doesn't allow me to lie. What he's saying here is that Barack Obama, for some Brazilians, would be considered a mestizo, a mixed race guy. But in Brazil, I mean, the United States, even being mixed, most people see him as Black. You could go to Brazil, and depending on your consciousness, who you are, I could see somebody looking like, there was actually some years ago, there were a bunch of guys in Brazil who were being considered the Brazilian Barack Obama. Some of them look quite a bit like him. But in Brazil, the guy can choose. He can classify himself as Black. He can classify himself as mixed, even mestizo, mulatto, pardo, whatever. Nowadays, I would think more people who look like him are identifying themselves as Black. But anyway, what is it? There is no contradiction between being a mixed race country and being a racist country. Both Brazil and the United States are countries that are deeply mixed and deeply racist. The only thing that changes is how each culture chose to call mixed race people. The Americans call Black anyone who has a drop of Black blood, while Brazilians invented numerous terms for all shades of color. There was once the famous unofficial census from 1976 where I think Brazilians classified themselves with like 176 different color-coded terms. You know, Henry Louis Gates talked about this in his Black and Latin America documentary that, you know, the part that was focused on Brazil. And you'll see these terms. It was just like literally, it might be more than 200 terms where people, you know, in the United States, the Black community would talk about, you know, high yellow or red bone or, you know, caramel skin or something like that. In Brazil, they have like hundreds of these terms that they use to classify how they look. So racism is the same. When I published an original version of this text many years ago, many readers could not comment. After some time, I discovered the reason. To prevent comment spam, the system had a long list of words used by spammers, and any comments with some of them were not published. Suddenly, I noticed a flaw and went to the checklist, or went to check the list. There it was, the word interracial. That is, any reader who tried to write a comment with this word, the actual topic of the article, could not comment. Spammers use that word a lot in their ads because there are many porn sites about this. And there are many porn sites about this, and the entire sections in American sex shops are of, you know, a whole section on interracial porn movies, because this is a recurring and very strong theme in racist American culture. In other words, the very presence of the word interracial on the Black list would not be a coincidence. In fact, it illustrates the very subject of the article. According to the racist stereotypes in vogue in the United States and also in Brazil, the Black man would always be bestial, sexual, desired but feared. He is the well-endowed negão, meaning big black man, or the insatiable negona, meaning the explicitly or truly black woman. Not coincidentally, racist American culture, at the same time that it more fetishizes interracial sex than Brazil, it also has far fewer interracial marriages. Naturally, the more the black person is fetishized as a sexual object, the less this person is considered a possible spouse. It is not surprising that all of these racist prejudices of American and Brazilian society make it so that in these countries, black people, especially women, spend more time unmarried and have a harder time getting married. All of this data came from the book. Once again, the Edward Telles book, Racismo a Brasileira, Uma Nova Perspectiva Sociological. I think this book, I can't remember which version came out. I think the English version came out second. And that same book is called Race in Another America, The Significance of Skin Color in Brazil. Again, both, by Edward Telles. One of the best books I ever read about race. Basically an overview of numbers, statistics, and experiments whose aim is to combat the anecdotism of discussions on the subject, and above all, to give arguments to those who want to debate or convince the sincerely confused. But truth be told, it has no data there that an observing person already could not have deducted alone, only by living in Brazil and not being in a state of deep denial. This is something that I see all the time. It's like people are so accustomed to what they see in Brazil that it's pretty much normalized. I remember when I was teaching English, it must have been around 2014 or so, I was teaching this middle class white family, the brother and sister. They were probably about 14, 15, 16 or so. And I wouldn't expect them to notice this. I mean, white middle class kids, why would they think about this? But I says, the next time you go to the mall, tell me, the mall that was close to their home in this area called Tatuapé. And I says, well, go to the mall, and when you come back for our next class, tell me how many black men you see with black women at the mall on any given Saturday. And when they came back, it was like, teacher, I never noticed this, but I didn't see all the black guys I saw at the mall had white girls on their arms, walking with white girls. So I says, yeah, this is the point. It's so normalized there that nobody even notices. It's like black guy, white girl. So even though I have talked about well-to-do black men, this also applies to just black men in general in Brazil. And, a high percentage of black women who are dating white men. So it's like all over the country. I could talk forever about some of the things that I saw over the years while I was living there, but let's get back to this article. It's worth remembering that the book is from 2003. And of course, does not take into account the data from the 2010 census. The situation is always changing, sometimes even for the better, whatever that means. Finally, the aim of this paper is only to present some original survey data and the findings from Telles on interracial marriage in Brazil. If you have objectives, if you have objections to the data or as to the conclusions that can be drawn from them, I recommend reading the book or getting directly in touch with the author. Okay, this is Edward Telles's email address. I remember when I was reading his stuff, he had a lot of articles published online, but he was a professor at UCLA at the time, a sociologist. So apparently, I don't know if he still is at Princeton, but at the time he was, I guess he was a professor at Princeton University. So here you find, a couple of the, some of the citations from the article above. And this is just gonna, it's just gonna open the can so I can further to this day. It's, like I say, interracial marriage is being just problematized by a lot of people. Like, okay, beyond the idea that because we're mixed, we don't have any racial questions. What put us on the path? What put us on this path of racial mixture, particularly within the Black population? So, again, there's several articles that I plan to get to on the blog. I mean, I'm talking about 3,700 articles at blackbraziltoday.com for you to check out. I'll get to all of them eventually if I have the time. Feel free to go there and check out some of those articles for yourself. So if you got something from this video today, definitely give me a thumbs up. Share this video with people who you think might be interested in it. That's the way this channel can grow. Subscribe to the channel if you think this and other videos are things of interest that you might appreciate these articles and videos. And definitely click on the notification button. So, you get an alert so you know when I've posted another video. So with that said, I'm going to end this video here and look forward to putting up more content, and hopefully you guys come along for the ride.